President, Space City Chapter, American Hibiscus Society. Welcome to our meeting. Tonight we have Mart Graves is going to do a presentation on judging, followed by Joanna Schimek doing a presentation on show prep. So Marty is going to show you what happens when you bring your flowers to the show. And then once you understand what happens once they get there, then Joanna's going to show you what you want to do to get them there in a good state. So when the judges get them, you have your best odds for the judging process. So with that being said, let me turn it over to Marty.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thanks for being here, first of all. What we're going to talk about tonight is judging hibiscus, and it's a comparison of your bloom to the perfection of that individual variety. So that's a lot of words to say. What is a Hermgeller supposed to look like? What is a Ruth Watson supposed to look like? And then that Ruth Watson comes across your table, or Hermgeller comes across your table, and you say, oh, okay, I know that bloom, and that meets its standard. It's supposed to do this, it's supposed to be that. So that's the toughest part of judging, is knowing all these blooms, and people bring them in from Russia and China and India,
Louisiana.
wherever, you know. And so there's always new ones coming out, and that's hard to keep up with. But we have an answer for that too.
You have a cheat sheet or something?
We have a cheat sheet for sure. All right, we have something called a manual for judges. And this is available. I printed out my own copy. And it's hidden. It's not real easy to find, but it is on the AHS website under hibiscus competition. And then you have to scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you can get this document and print it out. And it has everything we're going over today, and all the details. And this is something that, as a judge, you should take with you when you go to the show. If you're going to be judging at the show, you can always refer back to here in case somebody has any kind of questions. It's kind of like our cheat sheet or our Bible. Okay, we enter our blooms in categories. Okay, it's designed for fairness, and it's designed to encourage participation. Because if you're excited about hibiscus, why not come to a show and enter one? You know, get involved, and it you know, you get that competitive edge on. And okay, but Joanna's and Oakmar have what, 600 plants? You come in with your one, and you go, how in the world am I going to compete with them? They've been doing it for a while. They know all these tricks. They've got all these fancy varieties I've never seen before. Guess what? If it's your first time doing it, you're an amateur. Who are you competing with?
Other amateurs.
Other amateurs. So that's why we have these categories. And we distinguish them by cards. So amateur cards are white, and you'll hear judges. If you're wanting to do this and you want to become a judge, we have you sit in and watch a judging session. And then that way you get to hear all these conversations, and you say, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. They'll say, well, you know, that one has a little bit of a blemish on it, but you know what? It's on a white card. Oh, wait a minute. That one has a little bit of a blemish, but it's on a brown card. That's a commercial grower. That person should know everything there is to know about these things. He should know don't enter that one, it's got bugs on it or something, okay? So you might hear that in a conversation. In other words, they're a little lenient on the amateur. You know why that is?
They wanna get you hooked.
We wanna get you hooked, right? Go buy another plant.
Or two.
Or two.
Or 6.
Okay, and then there are seedlings. All right, somebody's gone to all this work to cross the plant, grow it from seed, get it to grow, get it to bloom, have it bloom for the show, because you all know they're only open one day. So they are in a class all by themselves. They compete only with other seedlings. So they're on pink cards. They don't even go through the judges' table. Judges don't see them until the final judging, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Miniatures. Everybody's got miniatures. Joanna and Otmar have. The guys with 1 or 2 plants have. The guys with 75 varieties, they have. They're all grouped together. Because what's the motto of the American Hibiscus Society? Bigger is better. And so you got these
Somebody
little
got
tiny
one.
5-inch blooms, and they're competing with that thing back there. Does it Gloria? Did you bring that one in? The huge white angel wings. You know, and then you see this little tiny, real cute, but a little tiny one next to it, and you say, oh, nope, they get their own category. So they're on kind of a yellowish card. Well, no, because yellow's open collector, but it's kind of a
Gold.
gold or orange or
I have one.
depends on, you guys can kind of tell from that. All right, so now we got different levels of judges, just like we have criteria on our different categories for our blooms. We don't expect you to walk in and be an expert judge at the first show. So we have you do some training, which is kind of like what we're doing here. Okay, that's
Yeah,
the
kind of a gold.
color. You can see the color difference. So you have to attend a class like we're doing now. You have to observe at a show. So we have 3 judges usually to a table. Why do we do that?
In case you disagree.
Because there's a disagreement. The first 2 people who look at it, one says blue, one says gold. What do? That's why you got a 3rd judge. So the 3rd judge says, oh man, I gotta make a decision. You know, I've got 2 different votes here. Okay? So then you work your way up, you observe, then you become a novice judge. And that's where we don't really ask you to do a whole lot, but you're probably gonna sit in the middle seat when we talk about putting the judges. The first judge is, well, we'll get into that in a minute. So then you go to a junior judge. So you do 3 shows as a novice, 3 shows as a junior, and then you attend another training session. Because when you're here, like this year, we're gonna have a problem. You could do 3 shows in 1 year when we were doing 4 shows between the 2 chapters. Now we're only gonna have 2 shows. So whoever starts out in judging now is gonna have to wait till next year to get your first set of 3rd as a novice. And every year at the convention, and not everybody from Houston goes to the convention because they move it around. You know, we got Florida and we got Louisiana and us here. And so we move it around and not everybody goes. But that's why all the chapters are starting to do this kind of training in their chapters so that they can get this training in. So then after you do all that, you become a senior judge after 2 years. Now, senior judge means very little.
You got a badge?
Sounds good. You're older.
You get this little thing, yeah, you get a judge's badge and you get to walk around the show like, I'm so important, I'm a judge. So then to maintain your judging status, you've got to do that annual judges training. But if you don't want to judge, you can clerk. You can be a show director. You can be an assistant show director. Any of those get you credit for doing judging. So you can take on these other jobs if you would like to. The clerking is real easy. That's just where you're recording what the decisions have been.
And you have to do
We
that
call it
2
we call it a sit-down job at the show, because all the other jobs are running around doing something. So we try to get the more mature audience to do those jobs, let the youngins go do the running. So there are 3 judges per table. Then they put in a few more things. You know how rules are. Everybody comes up with a new rule because somebody did something to break it or to make it look unethical. So guess what? Joanna and Otmar can't be sitting at the same table. Greg and I can't sit at the same table
Collusion.
because we're in the same family. But Gloria and I can sit at the same table all day long. I'm probably better friends with Gloria. We probably agree on more things than, but in Florida, they're not doing it now, but when they used to have like 15 chapters just in Florida. They would pay judges to go because they wouldn't go cross state, you know. I'm like, it's 90 miles for me to come here. What do you mean? I could get across Florida in less than that, you know. But they wouldn't have Gloria and Joanna judging at the same table because they're from the same chapter.
Oh, my word.
So that, then it became even more of a mix. Okay, you know, trying to coordinate all that kind of stuff.
We
So
wouldn't have any judges.
yeah, yeah, we would. So we broke when Texas got in to the society. We broke all the rules. You know, we had all the same people. We had couples. You know, there was no way we could do a show without breaking some of their rules. So they started to realize, yeah, those are kind of crazy rules. So the first judge gets the, and I didn't bring it, but we have a little ring.
I have one.
It's 5 inches. You got
I
one?
have one.
Are you a judge?
She's got everything.
Yeah, I didn't bring my judging bag. So the first judge is supposed to be the one
Show
with
and
the
tell.
most experience. Thank you, Joanne. See, she's always prepared. All right, so your minis are supposed to fit through here.
I don't have one of those too.
All right, see how that is? Would that fit through?
I don't think so.
If you do it from the other way, it would. But no, you're supposed to be able to, it's supposed to be sitting on a ring, on a wire, and you're supposed to be able to get that to go right over top of it without touching. Okay? First judge gets to do that. So.
Do they
if
just do that if it's only entered as a miniature or for every flower?
That's where you gotta be a good judge. You gotta know what you're doing. Somebody's got this little itty bitty tiny thing and it's
This
written
one?
on there that says, well, that's supposed to be a mini.
I know, but if they're not
But you bring in what's supposed to be an angel wings that's, 10 inches, and it's fitting through the mini thing.
Just don't open it up, right?
Yeah, there's another one. And then see, then the judges get to this point. They say, oh, well, that, no problem. But that one, if I slide it a little and I do a little toot,
It's on a mini card.
and it's on a mini card. So what do? They change the rule again. So now we have a rule that if it doesn't bloom as a mini that day, you don't have to put it on a mini card. You put it on your regular card. So if you're an open collector, you get out your open collector card and you put your oversized mini on this one.
Tricks of the trade.
Okay? Now there are some judges, and I am one of those, but then I'm directing, and so I'm not down there judging. But I would say if it's supposed to be 10 inches and it comes in and it fits through the ring, I'm gonna mark it down for size no matter what. That's just me.
Fair is fair.
But that's why you have 3 judges. And then, what happened to that? Alright, so that's what we call ringing the minis. And then that first judge says, okay, that's a blue, it's a red, it's a gold. The reds are the worst, blues are a little bit better. Maybe there's 1 or 2 things, 3 things wrong with it. Gold means, hey, this is spectacular. Alright, the middle judge, that could be any level of experience, so that's where our little novice is gonna go. So that would be your first job. Alright, so experienced person comes in, says gold, you look at it and you see 3 or 4 blemishes on it. So you remember your training, you say, I think it's a blue. Say, okay, good. Don't let that first judge influence you. You have your own opinion. And then you put it over to the third judge, and the third judge then says, I got a blue and I got a gold. Now, what do I think? And they should be listening to all your questions, all your concerns, all the things you point out, and then they make the decision, and that's why we call them a circle judge.
And you have to be a senior judge.
And that should be a senior judge as well. And we call, or a captain's judge, judge captain, we call them a circle judge, because on this little card, you'll notice it says gold or blue or red. And you circle what it is. And then, we have a different color pen for each table. So then when you, as a brand new novice, come in and you say, why'd I get a blue? That should have been a gold. Guess what? As a show director, I can say, you go talk to them, they were at that table. Oh, that's dirty. Don't ask me, I didn't do it. That's real dirty. Alright, then if you're the novice judge that's sitting in the middle, your job is also to pay attention to what that next judge does. And if they had that gold and blue, if they didn't say gold, did they, why did they mark it blue? And you can ask them, well, why did you think it was blue if I thought it was a gold, or vice versa? And so that discussion has to happen lickety split, because guess what? You got
They're coming at
a
you.
bunch of blooms coming at you. The earlier in the show, the more time they have to look. So what's that do for you? You're entering your blooms?
Enter them late.
You want to be at the end? I don't know.
Time to cut off.
Cause then you run into, they don't get to judge yours cause you got it in too late. Alright, so here's our standards of excellence. We've got 4. What's wrong with either of these two blooms?
Not uniform?
What's not uniform?
Well, there's a notch up in the right.
Okay, the one with the big notch,
Yeah,
one with a little notch over on this side.
Little pill.
Alright, that's Joanna's next thing she's gonna talk to you about is how do you manipulate it? Cause you can learn how to move those pedals very carefully. You do it on your own stuff, you do it when you're not entering a show. You get that bloom off the bush and you bring it inside to look at it all day long. You start playing with it. See what you can do. Take that calyx off the back. Pull that off. If it's not fully opening, it'll open. Maybe when it opens more fully, it gets rid of that dip. Okay, that's what you need to know to enter your blooms to get more golds. Because we could knock them off just because they're not in the form. Those,
How many
so-
points do you get for each thing?
Well, each ding is 1 point. So that could only lose 1 point and still be a gold.
But does that mean it got 5 points or it got -1, or
Well,
how
you're-
does it score?
You're
It's a
going
10
down
point scale.
10-point scale and you're taking.
So if you give it a 9, then that means it
It could
lost
still
1
be,
point for
it
whatever.
could still be a gold,
Right, okay.
because 9 to 10 is
Okay.
a gold. Alright, so now, size. This is where we get into, this was, major exception, which is supposed to be 9 inches. An antique treasure is supposed to be a mini, which is under 5. So you're not judging them the same, but you need to know what the standard is for that bloom, and that's where most of the confusion comes, is a judge will say, I don't know that bloom. You have to assume that if they've entered it on a regular card, it's supposed to be a regular size. So they can mark it down for size, you can mark it down for color. And this is where, as a show director, I can say at the beginning of the show, okay guys, we've got cold weather yesterday and the day, or all this week right before a show. What's that gonna do to your plants? What's that gonna do to your blooms? It's gonna reduce your colors. It might enhance your colors if it's one that likes to be in cold weather. It could go either way.
It's gonna
Alright.
reduce the size normally too.
And normally size, yes. Okay, so here's, 2 different examples of H bunny, and you know what? They could both be golds. It just depends. Somebody else could mark them off because it's supposed to be the darker red, more red in the eye.
Which would be closer to the standards? I thought we were grading relative to the ideal plant,
Yes, the ideal is more on the left,
okay?
and it's more faded on the right. That could be faded because it's hot. It could be faded because you didn't fertilize enough. You didn't listen to Sean last month. It could be any number of things.
Okay.
All right, substance. That's texture. This is a good example of substance. Does that look fresh?
Yeah.
To you? You say, that's a fresh bloom?
Well, it's a little curled on it.
A little curled on the edges, and guess what? Oh boy, I see right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All 5 of the base petals have got damage to them. Wind. You put them in a cup, or when they were a bud, the leaf hit it. It's sitting on that plant and it's just doing leaves in the wind. So, But again, you've gotta know, as a judge, you've gotta know, your blooms. Something like, Mon Ami, which is a red, huge red double. It's really hard to get to a show because reds bruise so easily. And so, but what you're looking for is freshness. Is that texture good? Is that typical of that plant? Or is it because they're not fertilizing enough, they're not spraying, or they're spraying too much? I mean, it could be any number of things. So, but that's something that you would want to, judge it on. Okay, Fantasy Charm. I use that as an example because it's very thin texture. Anybody who's ever grown this bloom can't get it to a show. It just gets damaged too much. It's like tissue paper. But, so if you see a really good one, put that gold on it. You know, that person worked hard to get it there. Condition. So now this refers to weather, insects, diseases, sprays, handling. We had a lady that, she used to go and she'd be opening her blooms and she'd do this. Oh, God. Oh, Ann Mitchell. It was Ann Mitchell. Man, you're gonna bruise the thing before it ever gets to the show, you know, before ever a judge ever sees it. So that's what we call handling, you know? You didn't handle it right. So we've got all these things of why we can mark them down, but yet we try not to. Okay, so is it weather or is it fertilizer? Here's two that were entered both as minis. I assume both of them went through the ring or they wouldn't have been on a mini card. Same plant, probably came across the same table. One got a gold and unfortunately it's covering up the circle part of it. So that's why that's the hard part of judging. It's also the hard part of entering because you don't know what the judges are gonna say as to why would they mark it a blue and why would one be a gold. Yes, ma'am.
Just wait, do y'all start every bloom at a 10 and then look for the
Yes.
deans? Okay.
Yes. Yep. So you start at 10 and mark them off. Technically, orange key is supposed to be that orange, so the one on the right, they probably dinged it for color.
1 or 2 points?
Must have been 2 because it's a blue. Alright, now this is something that people find very hard. I have seen people mark that whole plant, that whole bloom, as insect damage. It's not. This little part down here, yes, that's thrip damage down there where the arrow is. All those little spots on the petals is natural for that bloom. Is that, plum starburst?
Is it green in the middle?
No,
Is that just-
No, it's almost it's a black, almost, it's so maroon, it's almost a black. Yeah, it kinda gets looks like a green tinge to it.
What did you say the name of it was again?
Plum
Plum
starburst,
starburst.
starburst, one word.
Alright, now this is also could be insects or weather or handling. There's a little ding on each of the petals. The other thing we tell judges is if you look at that and you think, do I want that on the head table representing the best that we have been able to produce? And it's got 2 or 3 dings on it. No. Okay. There's more weather damage, again, these reds are really hard to get to a show. Alright, here's our 10-point system, so you can take off 0 to 2 points for any of those things. So if you've got, condition problems, and it's, undersized, I don't think we've ever marked anything down for being oversized, except those minis, but now we put them in the regular category, so, but that's just the system that we use.
What is substance?
That texture, how fresh does it look? That's the best word I think to use is freshness. You know, they allow us to refrigerate them.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't, some shows we wouldn't have anything at a show. You can tell reds that have been refrigerated. You can tell dark oranges or most of the darker colors, they're not gonna refrigerate well.
For just some varieties, it doesn't matter about the color, just some varieties do not refrigerate
Right.
well at all.
Right.
And
Oh, like little tiny psyches. Don't refrigerate,
If they're
don't bother.
thin texture, period, they don't refrigerate
No.
well.
No. No. So your golds are basically a 9 to a 10, your blues are a 7 to 8, and your red ribbons are 4 to 6. And there is an X. You can actually exit and say, you never should have entered this one, it's that bad. We usually give them a red anyway, you know, it's like, okay, thanks for entering, thanks for coming. Okay, when you're doing all this, I probably should have had that earlier, there is a fold on here. And so, you fold it up, and there's a little tab that you put that under. Judges don't see your name. They don't know who this is. All they know is it's an open collector, and that means they have 75 to what? Infinity.
I have a sneaking hunch that people recognize handwriting.
Oh, so you do things with that? Oh, we had
She's a school teacher.
we had a newbie entering, and she was using a purple pen. I said, get rid of the purple pen. Why? Because when the show's over, they open that up, and guess what? All the judges go around, they say, purple pen. I know who that is.
You'd really be better
And you
off
know,
with
we can't remember what happened yesterday, but you know what? Those judges are gonna remember. She had a purple pen.
You're actually better off having somebody else write your card.
You can do that, or you print some and you script some. Of course, they're not teaching that in school anymore, right? So nobody's gonna know how to do script anymore. Let's see, I've already talked about members of the same family. Miniatures we can send back and have them put it on a regular tag. I asked the rhetorical question, but I think I already told you guys, if I'm judging and that 10-inch comes in as a mini, I'm marking it off for size, and I'm gonna take 2 points off. I'm gonna make sure that's a blue. During final judging, a judge cannot vote in a category in which they exhibited a bloom except miniatures, because everybody's got miniatures, and we'd have no judges if we didn't do that. So that's the other way we keep it honest. And so if you are in the open collector or you're a collector and you're judging, you can't judge in the category if you entered. If you are a collector and you didn't enter anything and you're judging, feel free to do so. Okay. Here's our orange key again as our example. One fit through the ring, one didn't. Both got golds. One was on a regular card, one was on a miniature card. this is chartreuse rose. I don't know what they actually entered in Florida, but it was entered as chartreuse rose. And doesn't look like any chartreuse rose I've ever seen. But, things like that happen. Now, was the difference between these two fertilizer or growing conditions? I don't know.
Some of both.
Could be all of the above. Does it look pretty? Does it have any major flaws?
No.
Give it a gold. Alright, here's where we separate everything out. As a judge, you would come up to a table, we'll say, pick one of those, one of those, one of those, one of those. That's mini, seedling, regular, single, seedling, regular, doubles, seedling, miniature single, and miniature double. So there's 4 categories for the seedlings. That's the only time a judge gets to see them. We did earlier. Yeah, everybody know what a seedling is? Somebody's crossed it, grown it from seed, got it to, waited 5 years for it to bloom, got it to show, you know. So go a little easy on these guys. Okay, so then the show director sets out all these other things in the same categories. So then you'd also then have another table that's gonna be all singles. It's gonna be an amateur, a collector, an open collector, and a commercial. And out of those 4 singles, you get to pick best of show. So you say, okay, out of those 4, which one do I like the most? That's where you're just purely whatever your fancy is. If you like yellows and there's a big yellow there, vote for it. Okay? And you do that in all those different categories.
So you got 3 judges voting on 4 flags?
No, 3 tables of judges, three to a table. So then if we have 2 tables or 3 tables of judges, then all those judges come together and go down the line. Your show director puts those out all for you, and you fill out a card, and then we do separate tallies.
Okay.
Okay? There's where we tally them. 3 winners are replaced by the next highest vote. Okay, so when we had those 4 singles, the commercial one won. Okay, you as a group of judges voted the commercial one to be best of show. So best of show single goes up, and we go back and we look at our list and we say, okay, the next one that got the next highest votes in commercial singles is this one, and that takes its place
Best of class.
as best of class. So then when we get our head table all lined out, we've got all the winners that were the best, and then we have the best and the move, maybe a move up. The only one that doesn't move up is a seedling. Okay, so if the mini seedling double wins best of show, then we don't award a mini seedling double. So then we have a whole. Then there's something called sweepstakes. How many goals did you get? How many goals did Sally get? How many did Jane get? How many did, you know? All right, everything's by number. So when you went in and you were an amateur and you sign in, you got to pick a number. You were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many amateurs we have. All right, and then every time you got a gold, we marked it down on a piece of paper that you got a gold. So that's, as they're going through the tables, we're writing all that stuff down.
That's a clerk.
That's what the clerks do. So that's that good sit-down job in the, so you have to be good with numbers, you can't be transposing stuff. And that's, you know, that's what makes it real easy, it's basically numbers. So we talked about the entry card, you get a number. If you do this all the time, and especially if you're in that, you know, one of those higher categories, you got more plants, you get a permanent number. And then we made label stickers with their name, address, and permanent number on it. So all we do is slap that on the card, and then all we have to do at the show is write down the name of the bloom. Once
Or
we,
you can use all the free ones you get in the mail all the time.
yeah, but it's gotta have your number on it. Then you have to even write down your number, and that's why she takes so long to enter her bloom. She's using her free labels.
I do. I do.
We're always trying to get Gloria to hurry up and enter her blooms, cause we want her to judge, but, all right,
Talk about a tie for the gold.
okay, so then if there's a tie, without my mouse, I don't know how to go back. Anyway, on that tally sheet, if you notice, there was a column of golds, a column of blue, and a column for red. Okay, so we're keeping track of all those. So if there happens to be a tie, and let's see, usually it's between you and one of the Louisiana guys, or yeah, the Schimeks and Gloria might just have the same number of golds. So if it's tied, then we go and we tally up how many blues did they get. And then if that's still tied, we go and look at the reds, and we've never had it get to that, get to that far. Somebody has always had at least one more, so that we get a sweepstakes. And this is how we tally those. We got another tally sheet, it's got all those permanent numbers on it, and we got a group of folks that are just sitting down there doing little tally ticks. And then at the end, we add them up. And so you can see on this one, we've got 43 here, and this is their blues. We've got 26.
Can't see you pointing at the screen.
Well, wherever.
The one on the top.
There's the one, second one down.
Yeah.
The one that has the most little ticks all along. And then after it's all done, I write the name of who that was. Now, I've been doing it long enough that I kind of know the numbers. I don't know everybody's number, but it doesn't matter, because all we're doing is recording. Doesn't matter whether I know what it is or not. All right, and that's what creates a beautiful head table. All right. Any questions?
Good job, thank you.
Welcome.
This counts as our first training lesson?
That counts
It
as your
does.
first training lesson,
Just be sure and sign that sheet back there so you'll get credit.
because we may be calling on you to get further trained.
Pretty hard up.
Marty, who are the show directors for the two shows? Okay,
And he's gonna be 9 days from surgery, so I
okay.
don't
no problem.
know.
Just wondered.
He might be assisting. I'm gonna call Steve Matheson. I'm gonna call Steve Mateus, because he used to be a show director.
Oh my gosh.
Some of those look bad.
Some of those got out of my cups.
That's the idea.
Okay, the way we do this is we have these little cups that used to be like snow cone cups, but you know, they don't have snow cone cups anymore. You know, they're like big styrofoam cups. But we take them and put them down in here. keeps them basically like they should be, and then stick them in a solo cup and put them in one of these. Okay, so then when we get to the show, we can put them, because I've written the name on here because I have so many that I can't keep them all straight in my head by looking at them, unlike Gloria, who has a good memory. I have to look on here. This is Luke's home run. That is one of our seedlings that is not a seedling anymore. And then we can kind of open it up, and it's ready to put on a stick and fill out a
Crosses
card
them off so that you can keep using the
and
cup
have it
over
ready
again.
to show.
And then she'll use this side.
Okay, this one is not ready to show. I was trying to think. This is a Tahitian burning sands. It's probably not gonna be ready, but when she was talking about pulling the calyx off, you can pull these pieces of the calyx off and it will open easier. I don't think this one was even gonna open. I thought maybe it might.
And that's legal?
It's legal.
The judges are not allowed to look at the underside of the
Oh,
bloom.
really?
Just the top side.
So you can have
They're not
every
supposed to.
single bug in the world on the underside of your bloom, as long as the top is good,
This is probably gonna fall apart because I pulled those
they won't
off.
know it's there.
You can also, it's opening a little bit because I'm kinda shaking it and pull it in the wind like this. It's still not gonna open very well. They say don't touch it. I don't always follow all the rules. You can ask Marty, I'm not a very good rule follower. But you can get it open, maybe not perfect, but you can start kind of working with these petals very gently and pull them a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right to get them in the form that you want them to be so that they will be more uniform. It's still not, I mean, it's starting to reflex, but it's because I picked it early this
Do
morning.
you have a tendency to call your own
Yes,
before you even?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
You
You'll
have a
go out
discard
and start
pile.
looking at your blooms now, and you'll notice what the form of the bloom is, about how long it's gonna take to open. The day before you can pick it, we can use it in the show, but you can get to look at each one of your varieties and get used to when is it gonna open. That's the key.
Right.
So,
This one evidently opened pretty well. Did you open this one over? Somebody pulled it out of
It
the
was
cup?
open.
It was already
That's
open?
yesterday's blue.
Okay. And it still has decent texture, but it was put in this cup. This is a chartreuse rose. This one is Season Surprise. It has a pretty thick texture, and it opens pretty good, and
Small.
it's a small one.
No, well, it's smaller than it should be.
Right,
Small but not a mini.
right, right.
And you enter them anyway, cause we want bloom count,
Right.
you know?
This one has a tear
Ah,
here. It's pretty thin because it's an older bloom, and I think it's peppermint parasol. No, it's Starry Night.
so you
But
wouldn't
it's-
even submit that hoping to get lucky, huh?
Oprah probably would, I wouldn't. He has more of a tendency to do that than I do. I'm like, Mark,
Cause he's thinking Gloria's gonna have a few more and I want
Yeah.
some blues.
I want
Yeah.
I want some blues to get me over the
yeah,
hump.
I'm gonna get some kind of like, just throw it away. This one is probably yesterday's too. You can tell because it's a little bit thinner. It's Silverado, one of DuPont's, right? I think.
Yes, it is. What's that one?
Silverado.
Oh, okay.
This one would be one I would take to the show. And I would peel the calyxes back very easily, and I would stick a wire in it, and I would put it on styrofoam and set it out in the sun. And then I would go out there once in a while and work on it. Come on, baby, open up. Leave it in the sun, and maybe right before it's 11:30, it will have opened enough that you can show it, that you can work with it, and it'll open. Maybe not. I thought it might open. It's LT
You
grade.
can open it.
I probably can, but I
Well,
don't.
you probably can.
I probably could.
Somebody can. Let
Yeah,
somebody
you get
try.
real
tore it.
adept at sticking your finger in.
I just tore it. Yeah, I do that more than I should. I just tore that
The
one.
reason you bring it is there's no shows on Monday.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, and there's nothing worse than going home and there's this gorgeous bloom sitting on your bush that you said, oh, it won't open tomorrow. Well,
It won't open this afternoon. It won't open.
That's a
And then you've got
tomorrow.
6 in the greenhouse that are open, but. What is this one? Oh, you want it?
Swamp cloud.
Swamp cloud. And that opened pretty well too, but it has a tendency to get thin also. So it's just all a matter of, if it's too tight, pull those calyxes back. Maybe set them out on a wire outside for a little while. We took one and it was dancing fire. And we put it on a wire, thought there is no way it will ever open. It'll never open. Put it on a wire, on a styrofoam with some of the other blooms, and we just, in the back of our car, and drove to Baton Rouge. We had several back there. Oh, we still have one in the back of the car. And at the last minute, we took it in and entered it in the show and got Best of Show double. Had no idea that thing would open. It was so tight. And so you never know. So you know, put them when they're that tight, because they can open up. But the easiest way that we have found to take them is in these little cups. And there's some of them, and you can see, we've written them down, scratched them out, scratch them out, and write more. I mean, we just go all the way around these cups. Do you remember where we got those over?
We used to get them from Hilo.
Oh,
I don't think they're doing them anymore. In fact, we got a whole big box of them one time because they said, oh, we're not doing those anymore. We got some in the back room.
Used them as oil filters.
Yeah, because they're for filling oil. They use it to put oil in cars.
Oh, like that. Okay. Okay, Gloria has this one that she said, she probably picked it a day early, but you can take it and do this, where you've seen how I made the air go to it, and you can take a cup to get the petals,
To open more.
to get it to open more. All mine were too much to do that. And you can set this cup on there a few minutes, just on your table where you're filling out your cards, and leave it on there a few minutes, and you will be surprised. I mean, that one's still a little curled, but in the heat, you could take it outside and it would work wonderfully well. It really works wonders. And this one is really good too, because it's a thick enough texture. What is this one? Oh, Androsel. It's one of Gloria's seedlings. But it's tomorrow's bloom. A small tomorrow's bloom. But so those are some of the tricks. I was going to tell you to be sure. A lot of you will be amateurs, so be sure and go. My bag's back there, and pick up some cards.
I brought some
And they are the
white ones.
white cards, and there will be a sign-up sheet, and you will sign up and get your whatever number you sign up beside. Like we have permanent number, so we know our number every year. But you will sign up on a sheet where you sign in, all of us have to sign in, and there will be a number beside it, and that will be the number that you put on your card. And then you put your name and,
The amateurs, I think, are how they're
right, it's 1 through,
numerically,
right,
Yeah,
1 through.
First come, first serve.
yeah.
Right, and it's not the same every show, so it'll be first come, first serve, and
Unless you're an early bird and you get there first.
every time,
You can be numero
you
uno.
can be number one every time.
Do you
But,
have to pick the next number? Like if I come in and they're all blank, can I pick number 14?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Even if nobody's done 1 through 13, so you can,
Is that your lucky number?
whatever.
Go for it.
No, I don't have one, but you know,
we,
I might.
we sometimes, if the show is on Sunday, sometimes, not really, I wouldn't advise it, cause that's when we start throwing them away, I'm like, no, keep that. Friday, maybe, start picking some that look like they're gonna be ready to open, and put them in these cups and keep it in the refrigerator. What temperature? 60-ish?
higher the better, but
Yeah, our refrigerators are,
50's not bad, 50 to 55.
okay, but not
no, in
real.
the fifties.
You don't want it
50.
close to the freezer.
Throw out all your food in the refrigerator. Put those bugs in there.
We have 2 refrigerators in our garage, but, for this, but neither one of them.
Hibiscus and beer.
And right now, they're not doing too well with the hibiscus, so we may revert to going,
Oh,
put
so you
'em-
got plenty of beer.
we may have to go put them in the church refrigerator when it's come showtime. So I've just told everybody at the church, if you open the refrigerator and there's white boxes in there, just shut the door and don't ask any questions. That's all I can tell you. So, does anybody have any questions?
I'm gonna ask a real silly one,
No.
because new people, you're already programmed that when you cut flowers, you put them in water.
Mm-mm.
And I'm not hearing anything about that whatsoever.
They're gonna die tomorrow anyway. They're still open just like this
And it won't help them.
until tomorrow. It won't help them do any better.
In fact, it'll do worse.
You know, that's what I was kind of picking up, because there's no mention of it whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
Well, that's another thing you could experiment with your refrigerator,
Right.
because sometimes you may put a damp
Claw.
paper towel
Yeah.
or a piece of paper
Or
towel.
like a piece about one,
Yeah,
about this
a
big.
tiny bit in each bloom or with each bloom to keep it more moist.
Or in a
But
bag.
on other occasions, your refrigerator may be moist enough and it may be too humid, so you may
Ours
not want
is
to
too
do that.
humid. That one we put these in is too humid.
And you can get them too cold and they will actually start to freeze.
And then they will really become
Ugly.
flimsy
And
and
remember
ugly.
those,
Did you say anything about how long you have to plant before you show?
oh, no.
No, I did not. You have to have the plant for 30 days, just 1 second and I'll be with you. You have to have the plant in your possession for 30 days before you can show a bloom off of it. So you can't go to Moss on Saturday and buy you 6 plants and show blooms
Or
off of it.
pick their blooms off their.
Or pick their blooms off of it. And bring them to the show.
That sounds like a voice of experience.
That does, doesn't it? I was not with him if he did that. I'm
Put in
gonna,
a disclaimer immediately.
exactly, I'm just gonna put my disclaimer in, I was not with him if he did that. Yes,
Okay, you're talking about picking the blooms. How do you pick them? Do you pick them with your hands, or do you clip them off with scissors? What do you do
I pick them with my hands.
with your hands?
But some of them, especially doubles, will be really hard to snap off. For shows to be good, I always take my clippers and clip them off. Short, very short, but I always clip them right there. They've got a little, right, you know, where
Yes.
the calyx comes down, there's a little spot normally where they'll break.
Right.
Yeah,
A
this
little
one you
lower.
can
That
cut.
one.
This one you can tell.
See how there's like a line on there?
See where
And
that,
you do that with
That's
your
where they'll
hand.
just break off.
Okay,
That
so
one.
So Joanna says she picks hers with her hand, Gloria picks them using her scissors,
Cause I know
clippers,
with
and cuts them
other plants,
short.
sometimes you don't wanna put
I
metal
pick
on,
mine with my hands too.
on the plant.
I do both,
Scissors.
depends on, I know which blooms are
I'm
gonna be
waiting for
tough
Alfred
to
to
get
finish,
off.
and I'm-
What do you
So what I
do?
do.
What do you
Oh,
do?
he does.
Okay, so she picks them with her hands and just snaps them off pretty much, right?
Right, there's a place right there that
Yes.
it snaps off
Okay,
easy.
so Gloria uses her clippers and cuts the stem short. Me, I use my clippers and I cut the stem as long as possible. So if the stem's this long, that's what I'll
It won't
cut.
fit in my solo cup if I do.
If it won't fit in the solo cup, then we might give it a little trimmy trim, but I cut them long. So, you know, it's kind of to each their own. There's no right or wrong way.
Well, some plants that I've picked before, if you did it with scissors, then the bloom just died on you.
Yeah.
So I
With
don't know about
hibiscus,
hibiscus,
doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Hibiscus
Doesn't
will
matter.
matter.
Some of the blooms will stay open more than one day. I don't know, how many y'all have, but there's a few that will stay.
Yeah, I have a
I know
variety
there was
of
one the other
Yeah, I
day, it
can't
stayed
even
open
walk
3
on the back
days.
Yeah,
This
patio.
time
Well,
of
this
year.
time of the year, but
Cooler
when it
weather.
gets,
Yeah, that's true too.
So if you
But
bring
this
them
was inside.
inside and you see that, you know, if you bring a half a dozen inside and they all close overnight, and then you keep doing this, and all of a sudden, this one particular variety stays open for 2 days, you know, when everything else closes, you'll learn that some stay open longer, and the ones, to me, the ones that stay open longer are going to do better in the refrigerator, because there's some things that they barely wanna open by noon and close at 3 o'clock in the afternoon anyway, and if you try to pick that and put it in the refrigerator, look, it's, from when you pick it, its timer is going. And you put it in the refrigerator, by the time it comes out of the refrigerator and gets warmed up, it's ready to close and hasn't even opened yet. You know, but it's never been fully open outside.
especially if it's a thin
Yeah.
bloom,
Another thing we do is,
Eat a lot of our ice cream.
I do not. I will speak that,
Who bought the last 2 half gallons?
who is eating them?
It's not who bought them.
I buy them all the time, but, you know, we're not gonna go there. But I will cut an X or a plus in the bottom of this if I have a big bloom. Like a big, especially doubles, huge. Like a dancing fire or a Ruth Watson or something really big. And I will, my daddy, I don't know where he got him, God rest his soul, but HEB or somewhere at the grocery store, he got a whole roll of those produce bags.
Stole them, yeah.
I don't really think he stole them. I'm taking up for you. Okay,
Here's another example.
there,
I cut an
Yeah.
X. This was at 10 o'clock when I went out to check it, it was wide open. There's no way I could get on a cup, that big a bloom like that. So I just cut an X in the
On a
paper
plate.
plate and put it in there.
But if you wanna protect it overnight.
But if you wanna refrigerate it,
Yeah.
Huh?
if you wanna refrigerate it,
Yeah, I refrigerated this, but it looks bad right now.
but we'll cut an X in this, put it in one of those produce bags and stick it down in here with the stem out the bottom and put the lid on it, and you can put it in the refrigerator like that.
I never put produce back.
With the lid, nice.
You put yours in a Ziploc.
Well, most of them, but now Marty gave us the idea, she and Greg shared the ice cream carton.
They did.
And I got that from Gary Matthews in Florida.
Oh, well, it's a great idea.
but we don't usually put a bag over that, we put a lid on that.
Right, but
And
sometimes
if we have
I,
something like Cindy had, we put a bag over that.
That I would put.
right,
in the-
but sometimes I put it in a bag so it's easier to grab the bag and pull it out.
And the other thing you do with the big ice cream tub is you wad up some old, tin foil and create a little thing instead of having to do the X and set your bloom down on top of
And
that.
some are still too big to fit in that, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not ours.
Gloria's, yes.
Gloria's on it.
mega big, sort of, what are they, you know, when they sell the commercial stuff,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
commercial size ice cream.
When are the shows? When are the shows?
The show, our show, well, Lone Star show, cause they're all ours. Lone Star show is May the 7th on a Saturday in Sugar Land, and I can't tell you the address.
Bernie Road.
Bernie Road at the Knights of Columbus Hall, and June 7th, isn't that right?
Fifth.
5th, June 5th at the Kyle Chapman
In Pasadena.
is the Space City show.
And if you are a member, you can get in early, like the day before when we set up, and help, and you can buy plants before anybody else gets to it.
That's right.
If you help.
If you help, we're setting
You
up,
gotta at least alphabetize a row, you know?
unload the truck or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, we're gonna set up at what time? On the 6th?
Noon.
Noon.
I can't be there.
Noon?
Noon.
Okay.
Noon
What
for-
time can you be?
Noon in Sugar Land.
When are you done?
Show 5 minutes.
You gotta do noon on your.
We'll still be there.
I'll get you the key, so you know somehow so you can get in.
It's a Saturday. Our show is a Sunday, so we'll be setting up on Saturday.